Just take a minute. Look around you. There's history being made. Has been. Will be. How can there not? Just something about those blue skies, high banks, and high speed, all coming together in one perfect race. And it'll be here sooner than you think.
Roll Tide and welcome to this Thursday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. This is Roger Hoover. Great to be with you in Tuscaloosa on this Thursday afternoon as we are back with a new edition of Crimson Drive, talking all about some Crimson Tide basketball, a little bit of swimming and diving as well. We'll start to go through everything coming up on the show and our headlines thanks to our friends at RJ Young. They're the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. They've given us a smart board, so a real interactive way to go through everything that's coming up on the show today. First things first, we'll be talking with Richard Hendrix, of course, an SEC Network basketball analyst and someone that played at a high level here at the University of Alabama as well as in the pros. He covers both Alabama men's and women's basketball, so great conversation with Richard, especially about the win last night for the Crimson Tide against the Arkansas Razorbacks. Speaking of that, we'll be hearing from the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Nate Oats, with his thoughts after the win last night against Arkansas, as Alabama is a perfect 4-0 to start SEC play. And then we will go back to a conversation we had on Monday night at Hey Coach at Baumhower's Victory Grill. Margo Geer really previewed what's coming up for the Alabama swimming and diving team as they host their only home meet of the season coming up on Friday and Saturday here in Tuscaloosa. And then we'll go down to the Plains. Kristy was very excited after the win for the Crimson Tide against the Auburn Tigers in women's basketball on Sunday. We'll replay our radio conversation that we had after Alabama's big win, 31-point win against Auburn. Taking a look at some other headlines, starting with the men's basketball team. Again, last night, despite the game being tied at halftime, Alabama rallied to an 84-69 win over the Arkansas Razorbacks. Saturday, the Crimson Tide will try and keep it going, try to improve to 5-0 in league play as Alabama hosts LSU at 3 o'clock. Our radio coverage will start at 2. Alabama, now ranked 4th in the nation. We'll see if the Crimson Tide can keep climbing up in the polls after that, but certainly atop the SEC. And speaking of atop the SEC, Brandon Miller, the SEC Freshman of the Week for a second time in a row, 4th time overall this season. Just a dominant season for Brandon Miller. And Arkansas held him scoreless last night in the first half. He certainly changed that, double-digit scoring in the second half last night. So good win for the Crimson Tide men's basketball team. Women's basketball picked up a dominant 88-57 win over the Auburn Tigers. Brittany Davis led the way with 24 points for Alabama. Now the Crimson Tide have really enjoyed this winning streak against Auburn. 8 straight victories over the Tigers. That matches a school record for the most straight wins over Auburn in series history. With the win, Alabama improves to 2-2 in the SEC. Things still looking good overall for Alabama's resume at 13-4 overall this season. And now will be tested coming up this Sunday, going to Oxford to take on the Ole Miss Rebels, a team that enters today's action 4-0 in league play. 4 p.m. will be the tip-off time. Our radio coverage will start at 3:55 across the network. Last but not least, a few other notes around Crimson Tide athletics. The gymnastics team, after a big win last week against Mississippi State. First SEC meet coming up for Ashley Johnston and the Crimson Tide at Arkansas tomorrow at 7:30. Swimming and diving will be hosting Texas and Ohio State coming up this weekend. Again, Friday at 2 o'clock, Saturday at 9 a.m. We'll have more on that with Coach Geer and our Hey Coach replay coming up. And then practice is underway for Team 27. They have 22 practices plus 4 scrimmages. Try and get ready for the season opener in the second week of February. Baseball is about to begin practice as well. It's hard to believe that the bat and ball sports are almost back, and it was good to see softball practice with their first official practice this past Sunday. So a lot to talk about in terms of basketball for the University of Alabama, and no one better to speak about that with than Richard Hendrix, an SEC Network basketball analyst, as he breaks down some great wins recently for Alabama men's and women's basketball. It's great to see you as we're almost to mid-January, and we've learned a little bit about Alabama men's and women's basketball and SEC play, but how's everything going? Roll Tide.
Great to be on. Roll Tide, Roger. Thank you for having me. The basketball season, as you mentioned, is in full force, and I'm excited about it.
Well, let's start with Alabama men's basketball. As we've seen the Crimson Tide, of course, get off to an unbeaten start so far in SEC play. Last night, a good performance against the Arkansas Razorbacks. Just first of all, what were some of your takeaways from the win in Fayetteville?
Well, to play in a tough environment against a really good team, that was a big-time win for Alabama. They were able to pull it out in the end. Such a deep team that Alabama has. You see Mark Sears going for 26 points, knocking down all 10 of his free throws. Brandon Miller with an efficient performance, not really as aggressive as he normally is, but you can see the talent and how he can impact the game. But that's a team, all-around team basketball, and Alabama's looking really good, and they can be very dangerous in the conference.
Looking at Mark Sears, had the great performance as well against Kentucky, won the hard hat for that ball game, and then backs it up with another solid performance against Arkansas. Just what does he bring that maybe Alabama hasn't had in the last couple of years?
Well, he's a strong guard, dynamic from a standpoint that he can score and bring the ball up the court. But, he has a scorer's mentality. I think head coach Nate Oats really did a great pick when he picked him got him out of the transfer portal coming from Ohio. But he's very confident. As you can see, the skills that he has, he can shoot from deep. He drives to the basket strong, and he finds a way to keep the team under control. But it's not just Mark Sears. It's the entire team. You have to give the credit to the coaching staff with the players that they have on this roster and that they play so well together. Even when some players don't have it, other players are able to pick it up. The depth, the continuity that they have, and the synergy in which they play in is phenomenal. And it's been a lot of fun to watch.
I know from working games with you love to talk about post play, but how about some post players backing up a little bit, going beyond the 3-point line, knocking down some shots? We certainly saw that from Noah Clowney on Wednesday.
We did, and we got to see it from Noah Clowney firsthand early on in the season. He has a soft stroke for a guy who's 6'10". He's not afraid to step out from the outside. He hit some timely buckets for Alabama. They had a big surge in the second half, and it was sparked with a corner three by Noah Clowney. But you talk about the shooting touch from the size. It's not just from the shooting, but they're also able to defend with long, rangy defenders, making it very hard for players to score in the interior against Alabama.
Sticking with the big men for a moment, going back to Saturday, how about Charles Bediako and the job that he did, the entire team did against Oscar Tshiebwe, obviously one of the best in the league, the reigning National Player of the Year.
I mean, such a force Oscar Tshiebwe is. He's one of the more strong players in the whole college basketball. He likes to get deep position down low. But Charles Bediako, as we mentioned early on in the season, he added 20 pounds of muscle, and you could see it this last game, able to hold his ground, keep his verticality against a much stronger player in Tshiebwe, holding Tshiebwe to season lows in points and rebounds. A phenomenal performance for him. You can see the ability that he has really grown in his game, particularly on the defensive end, impacting and anchoring that defense on the back line. It's really, really fun to watch.
Sticking with a few individual players for the Crimson Tide, Brandon Miller, once again, the SEC Freshman of the Week, and he backed it up. As you said, it took him a minute to get going against Arkansas, but then when he does get it going, it seems like he has another level.
Well, he's very, very poised, and he's patient because he understands that he can get his game going. So it's good to see him facilitate early on and not rush a lot of things, because teams are really, really going to focus in on him defensively. Arkansas put their best defender on him last night, tried to make things difficult, but he was patient. He let the game come to him. And when you give him a crease, when he finally gets a clean look, he makes it pay, as you could see last night with two big back-to-back threes that really, really calmed down Bud Walton Arena last night. So an outstanding performance. He plays with a character and a pace and a poise much more older than a freshman.
So you mentioned early in the season about Brandon Miller. He may be the best player Alabama's had. And of course, that gained a lot of traction on social media, people talking about it. Just since then, how have you continue to see him grow his game, and what could be next for him?
Listen, I said that, and, as a player that played at University of Alabama, I'm not saying that just to have a hot take, on social media. Alabama's had a lot of great players, dozens, all the way back from Jerry Harper, Leon Douglas, T.R. Dunn, Robert Ory, Latrell Sprewell, James Hollywood Robinson, Mo Williams, Irwin Dudley, recently with Redden Obasanjo and Herb Jones, and that's not to leave anyone out. But when you talk about a 6'9" freshman who has perimeter skills, steps right onto the court against some of the best teams, number one teams in the country. They know what they're doing to try to stop him. And you see him able to put up big numbers, big rebounding numbers, and the team is winning. You have to question, he might be one of the best players that has ever played and wore the crimson jersey. And so I would say, as you mentioned, how much longer are we going to get the chance to watch him on campus? So get your tickets, come check this team out, check out Brandon Miller, because head coach Nate Oats has something brewing. And, it's really, really fun to watch, and you need to take it in.
And you get those tickets now as Alabama gets ready to come back to Coleman Coliseum on Saturday to take on LSU. And the Crimson Tide, again, riding high at the moment, off to a 4-0 start, obviously ranked 4th in the country. But just how important is it to keep defending the home court and keep this momentum going into Saturday?
Well, I think they have a really good rhythm going. And the momentum is very important. But as you can see, this team can beat you in many different ways with different players stepping up. So I think they have a nice swagger about themselves, as you can see going into Fayetteville, which is a very tough place to play. They didn't back down from the opening punch that Arkansas tried to throw. So they're not just a skilled team and a long team. They're very, very tough and resilient. They're taking the mentality of the head coach, and I think they're prepared. I think they have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder from last season because they had high expectations to continue their run from the SEC championship year. But I think momentum will be very important, and they'll keep that going. I expect them to continue that same type of tenacity against LSU.
Do you feel like that Alabama has separated itself along with maybe Tennessee as those two teams to beat so far in the SEC?
I do. I think preseason, I think a lot of people were high up on Kentucky, as was I. When you're returning the top player in the nation on your roster with a lot of talent, Kentucky's going to be the one you think is the top pick. But Alabama has shown this year that they are the class of the SEC, alongside with Tennessee, the SEC tournament champions from last year. I think those two teams have made a little bit of distance from the rest of the field. Arkansas was picked to have a great season, but they've been riddled with injuries with some of their top players. They've struggled early on in SEC play, but Tennessee and Alabama really seem to have it going. And it's going to be a lot of fun to see who wins this league.
It really will be. So that's a look at Alabama men's basketball as the Crimson Tide are off to a good start in SEC play. The women's basketball team now 2-2 in conference play, bounced back last Sunday with a win against Auburn. Just what have you made of the start to conference play for Kristy Curry's team?
They bounced back in a big way. You know, a disappointing loss that they had against Missouri at home, a chance to take themselves up to 2-1 in the league. They dropped that one, but able to bounce back. I talked to head coach Kristy Curry after that game against Auburn, and I said, what was the difference? She said toughness. So to see the toughness that they were able to go on the road in a tough environment against a rival team, keep their winning streak going against Auburn, 8 in a row, an outstanding performance. This is the potential that you want to see from Alabama women's basketball. They have an opportunity come up next to extend their winning streak. We'll see what they can do.
What's made the difference in terms of toughness? Who are the players that have had to step up when they've been called upon for Alabama?
Well, I think Sarah Ashley Barker has really, picked up her game. She came in with a lot of high expectations, being from Birmingham, a hometown kid for the most part, a lot of success on the high school level, and a big-time recruit going to Georgia over Alabama out of high school. So I think a lot of people expected her to come in and really, really take the lead. She struggled a little bit early on, but she's been able to find her rhythm. It's not just on the offensive end. She can really, really impact the game in so many ways. Her rebounding, her defense, she's even blocked shots. She's passing the ball well and started to hit a few shots from the outside. If she can get things going, it really helps. But of course, Alabama starts with Brittany Davis. She picked up her play. She's a sweet shooter from the outside. And if she can do that and continue to do that, she'll set the pace for Alabama women's basketball.
And of course, Coach Curry has talked all season long about the need for rebounds from this group. And with that, we've seen some blocks as well in the post. Just what do you like about the play of Jada Rice recently?
She's really picked it up, rebounding much stronger. Picked up her play in the Missouri game, as you can see, when she was challenged with some low post play with some of the better bigs in the conference. But picked it up in the second half and was able to keep that momentum going into Auburn. She's going to really have to continue to keep her play at a high and consistent pace, rebounding, pushing it close to 10 rebounds a game if she can, blocking shots on the interior, as she's one of the best defensive shot blockers in the entire nation. So she'll have to continue to keep that type of momentum going and scoring when she gets her opportunities. It's going to be critical as they move forward and play because you need tough interior play.
That'll really be apparent coming up on Sunday. The next game for Crimson Tide women's basketball will be against the Ole Miss Rebels, and Coach Yo in Oxford has the Rebels off to. Really will be important because after that it'll be Texas A&M and LSU both in Tuscaloosa. And again, just SEC basketball. Do you love the ups and downs you can kind of see as we go through a season like this? Because again, there's so much talent in the league. We talked about this a lot when we were in Birmingham for SEC Media Days, but it seems like all that talent is living up to the hype so far this year, both men's and women's.
It is. I mean, it's fun to watch. You know, you do want a little bit of parity in the league. Obviously, when you talk about the women's side, you have South Carolina and LSU who are definitely setting the tone for the league. But as you can see, Alabama is trying to keep the pace. It's not going to be an easy game any single night. And as a fan, you know, and an analyst that gets to watch it, I love to see close ball games. I like to see them to be competitive. And of course, when Alabama's competing, that makes it even better.
It really is. Well, Richard Hendrix, you do a great job on SEC Network Plus. We look forward to your next broadcast. And thank you for spending some time with us today on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, and the NASCAR regular season kicks off with the Daytona 500 on February 19th. Be there and experience the energy, the excitement, and the power as drivers battle it out in the 65th running of the Great American Race. Don't miss out on the event of a lifetime. Purchase your tickets today at Daytona500.com. As we continue on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, we had some great basketball conversation there with Richard Hendrix. Now we want to hear from the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Nate Oats. As you can imagine, he was in a very good mood last night after Alabama picked up a top 15 road win at Arkansas. Here's Coach's checklist following the victory for the Crimson Tide over the Razorbacks.
Tough road win. Our guys showed that they've got some toughness, some character, some grit, can handle some runs and still stay in there. I mean, after we beat Houston at Houston, I think our guys had some confidence that we can win anywhere. So I think we snapped a 17-game home winning streak. I think they've been 30 years since they lost to a ranked team as a ranked team. So there's a lot of things that hadn't been done in this building for a while that, you know, our guys did well. You know, we've got a talented group. They did a really good job on Brandon Miller for most of the game, and then he shook loose right at the right time. And I think he's grown up. You know, in the past when he couldn't get a shot. I mean, he didn't get a shot attempt in the first half. He'd get a little frustrated, but, you know, when they're going to play him like that, that opens the floor up for everybody else. You know, if they're just going to lock onto him, there's more space on the floor for everybody else, and we were able to take advantage of that. You know, and we're missing Damari Burnett. You know, obviously they're missing Nick. We're both missing a McDonald's All-American. So, you know, our depth's going to get even better when Damari comes back. So, but I thought our depth tonight really helped us. You know, both teams got in some foul trouble. And then, you know, I thought we had more. JQ got his third in the first half. I thought we had more point guard play with Sears and Jaden Bradley being able to play it a little bit. So, couldn't be more proud of our guys. Continue to get better every game. We just got to keep getting a little bit better every game and staying in this hunt for the SEC championship. Man, Clowney's not scared of much, neither is Brandon, but we've seen it from Brandon. But Clowney stepped up big in some big games. I mean, I sat down and met with Clowney last night. You know, they've shown that they're not going to guard guys that have lower percentages. You know, he hadn't been shooting it great at the beginning of the year, so his percentage was lower. I thought he'd been shooting it well, though, since we got in conference. But I just told him, if you're open, your feet are set, like, don't hesitate, let it go. So, you know, he went 3 for 4. You know, Brandon went 2 for 2. You know, those freshmen combined to go 5 of 6. I thought that 3 Noah Gurley hit was big too, kind of stave off a run from him. So, you know, Brandon's been big, clutch. I mean, he makes big free throws. He's made big shots, but those 3 threes between the two of those guys there when we were making that run was huge. I mean, it was super physical. I mean, guys were getting fouled. I mean, it's a hard game to officiate because, you know, Anthony Black trying to get fouled every drive and does a good job picking up fouls. He's a big point guard. You know, Jaden Bradley comes downhill at you. Brandon Miller comes. I mean, it's a really tough game to officiate. It was super physical. I mean, they're a tough team. You know, they preach toughness, and we do the same. So it was, I mean, and we've been good in tough games. I mean, I think Houston's one of the toughest teams in the country. I thought the loss to UConn really kind of showed our guys, if you're not tough, like, you're not going to be able to win these big games. So I thought our schedule in the non-conference really prepared us for this game, you know, and they didn't play as tough a schedule non-conference. So I think they were 1-3 last year.
Just take a minute. Look around you. There's history being made. Has been, will be. And it'll be here sooner than you think.
So that was Nate Oats after the Arkansas win for the Crimson Tide. And earlier this week on Monday, he joined us on Hey Coach, presented by Alpha Insurance, after we had a great conversation with the swimming and diving head coach at the University of Alabama, Margo Geer. And we wanted to bring that conversation to you once again because it is really exciting. Alabama hosting Texas and Ohio State coming up this weekend in Tuscaloosa, tomorrow at 2 o'clock and then Saturday at 9 o'clock. The only time you can see the Crimson Tide in action at home this semester is coming up this weekend. So we got a full preview from Margo Geer. Here's a look at our Hey Coach replay. Now, please be joined by the head coach of Alabama swimming and diving, Margo Geer. Roll Tide, Coach.
Roll Tide, Roger. Thanks for having me.
Hey, we're glad you're here. We've got a lot of people in the building excited that Alabama swimming returns to action this week.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's been since November since we've been up and racing, and even longer since we've had a home meet. So really excited to get going here this weekend. Friday and Saturday with Ohio State and Texas.
So we're excited to see your team back in action as, again, Alabama will host its lone home meet of the semester when the Crimson Tide welcome in Texas as well as Ohio State. The two-day tri-meet will begin on Friday at 2 o'clock and then close out Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Central. So for fans that maybe want to check out the Crimson Tide in the water against Texas and Ohio State, what are they going to see starting on Friday?
Yeah, so Friday we've got diving up front, actually. So diving is going to start at 2 p.m. on Friday. And we've got our diving team is pretty new and fresh right now, going up against some of the best in the country. So Ohio State and Texas bring some really great divers to our pool here. And then at 3:30 we'll have swimming going on Friday. And really just seeing the best of the best competing in a dual meet setting, a little bit of some different events. And split into 2 days. So a lot of great racing, men and women, both some of the top talent in the country.
Starting with the diving, I imagine that gets everybody on the team fired up, knowing, yes, we can't wait to get in the water, but we're going to cheer on our teammates first.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we've got a new diving coach this year, Bo Bunn, and he's done a really great job. Really have loved working with him, and he has the divers in a really good spot. And, they're young and developing, but this will be a really good challenge for them and a good test because Ohio State and Texas have some of the best divers in the country, like I said. So putting them head-to-head with them will be great and kind of see where they're at right now. What
have you learned more about diving in this role you have now here at Alabama, getting to oversee all aspects of the program?
The divers are honestly incredible. If you just watch what they're doing every day, it's pretty fascinating. They work very hard. They're very focused. And they really add on to what we're doing. I think when you talk about swimming and diving, obviously it's two different things going on. But at the end of the day, the divers really help us do what we need to do in terms of the combination of points from a team perspective. And they've been doing awesome, helping us out a lot in terms of points at dual meets and things like that. So we know when we come into championship season, they're gonna be doing the same.
We look forward to that coming up this weekend. Also, Saturday's contest will be senior day for both the men's and women's programs, including the seniors and the super seniors, and overall 11 seniors and also 6 graduate students on this roster. So a lot of people to recognize coming up this weekend.
Yeah, and can't say enough about how awesome this group is. Off the top of my head, I know recently, a senior, Derek Moss, stands out in my mind as someone who's just been a phenomenal student athlete overall. He's gotten it done in the pool and had some wonderful performances for us, but also recently, getting into med schools and kind of going down the next route for him as well, and really has just had this total experience that really stands out in my mind. So excited to honor not just him, but all of the seniors and as well as the fifth years that have come back.
Well, it's really exciting getting to see that recognition again coming up this weekend with Texas and Ohio State coming in. And you got to be glad as well. It is strong competition once you return back to the water. That really elevates everyone's performance.
Yeah, I think it's kept us motivated over the winter training. We get a week off or so in December for Christmas and all that, and then we come back and get right back to it. And it's really given us, something to look forward to in the short term and to work towards and know that we're going to get very much tested here in a couple days. And then knowing that that's also going to sharpen us for what we want to do and the goals that we have down the road at SECs and NCAAs.
So we kind of got a good idea of where the team stands getting ready for this tri-meet coming up. But let's talk about a few individuals on your roster, starting with Kinsey McMahon. She grabbed so many headlines, it seemed, during last fall and last summer.
Yeah, Kinsey's had a phenomenal career here at Alabama and really just capping off her, leaving a legacy. in a big way here into her senior or super senior season, I guess, and not just for Alabama, but also on the world stage. So super proud of her, and she's just continuing to improve, and sky's the limit for her, really.
How can a great performance on the world stage really translate to college swimming?
Yeah, I think a big part of it is, confidence. I feel like being able to get up against the world's best and earn a medal. When you come back from that, I think there's something that just elevates your mental approach to what you're doing. And I think it also allows you to share that with the team. And I think one of the things when she came back, I talked with her and had her share some of the things that she learned over there in Australia, and she really opened up, and I think people learn a lot from that, and I think it's contagious when you have someone like that who just attacks challenges and just elevates everybody else around her.
Yeah, she was able to win bronze at the 2022 FINA World Championships in December in Australia, and I mentioned in December. She had a chance to catch her breath, recover from what was, I'm sure, a whirlwind for her going to Australia and picking up that great bronze medal. Yeah, World Championships were right before Christmas, and so she capped off a great fall and performed the way she did there, and then got to have a bit of a break for Christmas, and is coming back, and we'll honor her and her performance, I think, at a basketball game here coming up, which will be great. But yeah, she's definitely ready to go and back into the college atmosphere, and I'm excited to finish off her last semester with us from a collegiate standpoint. You've talked before about some of the international student athletes on this roster. What goes into international recruiting in swimming?
Yeah, international recruiting for swimming is big. I think there's definitely certain countries that we have pretty good relationships with, and when we get swimmers that come here, or divers that come here and compete well for our squad, I think that kind of stirs some noise, and more people from those regions start to reach out and be interested in things like that. So Charlie's been awesome for us, and I know that's kind of he was wearing the Alabama A at his championships back home in Australia, so I think people were starting to find out what that was all about back home, so it's just been awesome. And I think the more success he has, the more, or from any of the internationals, the more success they have, the more that Alabama name gets out there and really benefits us.
And not just from the international stage, but just overall in terms of your recruiting. What's the message you're selling about Alabama as you continue getting deep in your time in Tuscaloosa?
Yeah, we really break it down to three things that we want to do. We want to be great at everything we're doing. We want to celebrate competition. We want to celebrate the ability to compete at the highest level at Alabama, part of such a great athletic community, and then elevate everyone around us, and be selfless in that way, and think about how we can impact others. So really those are three things that we talk about all the time, and I think I know Nate's coming on the show next, and he just talks about the championship school, and we reiterate that message a lot. We want to win championships, and we want to also set up kids the best we can for life after they win those championships. And you mentioned with Nate coming on next, I'm sure you got to know him just a little bit. Have you enjoyed kind of picking the brains of a lot of different coaches on this campus? It's been awesome, especially as a young coach, and really beginning my career. Patrick Murphy, I got to give him a shout out. He's been awesome. Definitely, learned from him a lot. And then really all the head coaches have just been wonderful. We've got a great support through the athletic department to get together and to have conversations and discuss. And that's probably been one of the coolest parts about this job, is getting to meet other people that are very elite at what they do, and understanding how they do things, and picking their brain on all that. That's got to be exciting. And I know some of your student athletes were cheering on the Crimson Tide men's basketball team this past weekend with the Kentucky game, and I'm sure you're hopeful that a lot of people will make their way to campus for what should really be exciting coming up on Friday and Saturday. Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to see as many people as we can and pack the house, and bringing in two of the best teams in the country again. I think, I think both coaches from Texas and Ohio State have said they haven't been in Tuscaloosa in many, many years. So wanted to get them on the schedule, wanted to bring the best here to Tuscaloosa for our fans to see. And and really just enjoy some fast swimming.
Well, Margo, Geer, again, we are very excited that Alabama swimming and diving will be back in action coming up at home here in Tuscaloosa again on Friday. It will all get going in the afternoon and at 2 p.m. Central, and then Saturday closing out at 9 a.m. Central. Hope to see a lot of Alabama fans make their way to the pool and enjoy watching some Crimson Tide swimming and diving. But until then, Roll Tide. Thank you so much for joining us on Hey Coach tonight.
Roll Tide, Roger. Thank you.
That is Margo Geer, the head swimming and diving coach here at the University of Alabama. Make sure you check them out this weekend against Texas and Ohio State. Good luck to Coach Geer and the Crimson Tide swimming and diving team. A resuming competition coming up this week in Tuscaloosa, at Auburn next week, and they're just starting their journeys toward the SEC championships and the NCAA championship. Should be a great season for Coach Geer and the Crimson Tide. It's already been a good year for Crimson Tide women's basketball with Kristy Curry at the helm, as Alabama is now an even 2-2 in SEC play, 13-4 overall. And after the victory on Sunday against Auburn, we had a chance to chat with Coach Curry on the radio after what turned out to be a huge victory for the Crimson Tide against the rival Auburn Tigers. Back at Neville Arena, where Alabama has won now 8 straight in this rivalry against Auburn, 88-57 the final score. Roger Hoover now pleased to be joined by the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Kristy Curry, and Coach Roll Tide, a 7-0 start for this ball game. Your team never looked back. What led to the good start here at Auburn?
Just great discipline, tremendous amount of energy. I just thought we had more energy and effort than they had, and just a poise about us, just a tremendous toughness. The word for the day was toughness. They chose it, and when you come into this environment, what an amazing crowd. It was Alumni Day, over 3,000 in here. It was Wear Orange Day, but Crimson prevailed. It was a really fun environment.
It really was. As I mentioned, the offense got going early. The defensive intensity, it seemed like, was there from the start as well.
Yeah, just a really good job of going out and executing the game plan, understanding, knowing your personnel. We call it KYP. Did a really good job of keeping them in front of us, making them shoot over us. I thought our zone was really effective, which I didn't think they expected as much as we did. And, I thought we did a really good job of changing our defenses out of timeouts and on dead balls, which threw them a little bit out of sync. But tremendous job on the boards. I thought we shared the ball. Just so many positives today. And our kids have been through some adversity lately. And I love the way they stepped up today.
Speaking of some adversity, we saw Megan Abrams leave late in the first quarter, did not return to the game. How's she feeling after this one?
Yeah, just get her evaluated tomorrow. I'm a little worried about it, but what a tremendous start for her today. Thought she did a phenomenal job. Thought our bench was the difference. Carly Weathers really stepped up. Ryan Cobbin stepped up. Just everybody. I can't say enough about our bench today. Loyal. But, just hoping Meg's okay. We'll get her evaluated tomorrow and get back to T-Town.
Even Brittany Davis was shaken up for just a little bit, but in the midst of that, puts together another plus 20 performance for you with 24 points.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think we're evaluating that, too. Just didn't want to take a chance there late. I think she probably could have gone, but it's going to be good for us to have a bye week in the situation we're in with a few injuries and some bumps and bruises. So I think that'll be good for us to have a bye week and be able to get our feet back under us before we head to a really good Ole Miss team.
You've had some good winning streaks before against Alabama rivals, notably against Tennessee and now against Auburn. This is 8 straight tied for the longest in school history. What does that mean to you?
That's awesome. It's a credit to the kids that have been a part of this, and it's a credit to the staffs. It's a lot bigger than me. And, boy, that's pretty awesome because I know when we first took the job, it wasn't that way. So I think that shows another step in the process of what we're trying to do. And, to represent Alabama today the way our kids did, everybody in the Crimson Tide Bama Nation ought to be pretty proud of this group. Pretty
special.
special.
To be proud of. Well, thank you so much, Coach, for joining us. We'll see you next Sunday in Oxford. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Thanks, Roger.
Fun conversation. Everybody was in a good mood this past Sunday with Alabama women's basketball. We hope that's the case coming up this Sunday. It's time to take a look at our Wickles Weekend Update, brought to you by Wickles Pickles. They are wickedly delicious. We have the pickle chips. We have the okra. So many more delicious products can be found at WicklesPickles.com. Let's take a look at what's coming up this weekend on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Coming up, first of all, on Friday, we mentioned the swimming and diving team. How about gymnastics? They'll be on the road against Arkansas. Check that out on the SEC Network. And then on Saturday, men's basketball back at home in Tuscaloosa against the LSU Tigers. Tip-off set for 3 p.m. We hope you can join us on the radio starting at 2 o'clock and even inside Coleman Coliseum at Stipe Lounge, presented by Royal Furniture. So a fun time coming up on Saturday with men's basketball. The women's team returns to action coming up on Sunday again at 4 o'clock at Ole Miss. The Rebels off to a 4-0 start, so that's a big game coming up there for the Crimson Tide. Also on Sunday across the state, you can watch Tide TV this week. The same can be said for the Nate Oats television show, as we get to hear from head coach of the Crimson Tide, Nate Oats, both on television and then on Monday on radio with Hey Coach with Nate Oats. We'll also have a video stream live for that coming up as well from Baumhauer's Victory Grill in Tuscaloosa at 6 p.m. Then it'll be the Crimson Tide hitting the road after that to go to Vanderbilt. So who knows? Coach Oats could be on the phone maybe on Monday. We'll have to wait and see as the Tide make the trip to Nashville to take on the Vanderbilt Commodores Tuesday night, 7:30. Our radio coverage, we do know, will begin at 6:30 from Memorial Gymnasium. That's our Wickles Weekend Update. Also, Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, and the Daytona 500 is almost sold out. Don't miss out on your chance to experience the energy, the excitement of the Great American Race. It's coming up on February 19th. Hurry and secure those tickets today at Daytona500.com before it's too late. We're almost a month away from the return of NASCAR and the Daytona 500. But right now, we are at the end of this show, Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, as we continue to talk Crimson Tide basketball, and hopefully next week continue to talk more wins. And right now, we are scheduled to be joined coming up next week at 2 o'clock by the Director of Athletics, Greg Byrne, to give some updates on Alabama athletics and what's coming up the rest of the winter and the spring. So hopefully you can join us for that, but we appreciate Margo Geer joining us on Hey Coach, Kristy Curry after the Auburn game, and especially Richard Hendrix, great insights from him earlier today on Alabama men's and women's basketball. We thank as well Ethan Carabin, our producer, for putting this show together, and thanks to all of you for watching as part of your Thursday afternoon. We will be live again next week at 2 o'clock for Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. For everybody with the Crimson Tide Sports Network, this is Roger Hoover saying thank you for watching. Have a great weekend. Let's keep getting wins in basketball. Roll Tide.